Hello, welcome, I'm Sarah and this is your first Pilates session. So I'm going to invite you to come into a comfortable seated position. It might be that you sat on a mat like this or maybe even on a chair. We're going to get started with some lateral breaths. So settle yourself in and then you're going to take your hands just to the lowest part of your ribs, the floating ribs here. Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. I'm going to take a nice big breath in via the nose. Expanding into the palms of our hands. And then exhaling out through softly pursed lips. I'm going to stay with this. Inhaling via the nose. Feeling the rib cages pressing into the palms. Exhaling through softly pursed lips. So this is our Pilates breath. I will invite you to do this through the session. Obviously the hands don't need to stay at the ribs, but if you can, keep the breath in via the nose and out via the mouth. And the reason why this is so integral is because your diaphragm is, as we've talked about with Susanna, as she's done the descriptions of the diaphragmatic breath, all the diaphragm is connected to the pelvic floor via fascia, your connective tissue. And we want to make sure that as we are breathing, we are lengthening up through the crown of the head, creating space in the spine, but also creating space within your torso. When you breathe diaphragmatically, the diaphragm will call into action your pelvic floor and the two bands of muscles will start to work in unison, and that will massage the digestive organs. So already before you even start to move your limbs, you're changing the way in which energy feels in your body. And it does allow your diaphragm to come to that full capacity, because if you don't have the length through the spine and you're slouching here, all of your internal organs are compressed. You just don't have the space to take a deep breath in. So we're looking at that posture. Whether you're sitting up or lying down, we want to lengthen through the spine. And we're looking to breathe into the side of the ribs and not ballooning into the belly. So it might just be that you practiced your breath for a few minutes and that's all you do today, fantastic. Or whether you do the whole session, but this is probably the most integral part. So let's just do a couple more rounds. And just relax those shoulders away from the ears. I love to wear my shoulders like earrings, so I'm constantly reminding myself just to relax into this area. Good, fantastic. And then from here, we're going to release the hands from the ribs and we're going to maneuver onto an all fours position for some cat-cows. So scooping the knees underneath the body, transitioning so that your shoulders are stacked above your wrist and your hips are above your knees. And first of all, finding neutral spine, neutral pelvis. Now we're going to come into that a little bit more in a second, but essentially just lengthening through the spine, so out through the crown of the head and through the tailbone. Then we're going to breathe in, allow the navel to come down towards the floor, chest reaches through, gaze comes up, so it's a small extension of the spine. As you exhale, press through the palms, draw the chin to the chest, round through the spine, scooping that tailbone down towards the floor, and then inhaling, coming back through neutral and then opening up into extension. So this can be as subtle or as dramatic as you like. It's an opportunity for you to feel into your spine, noticing what feels good for you today, and just remembering that you can bring this practice back as much as you need to on those days that you feel tired. Any movement is great. So just do what you can. Good, let's do one more cat. Coming back into neutral. Lovely. And then I'm going to walk the hands back towards the knees now. Shift the sit bones off to one side and we're going to come to lie down on our backs. Now, depending on where you are in your postnatal journey, as you come down, you might want to start really gently, just coming down onto the forearms and then all the way down. And we're going to bring the heels in towards the glutes, and you want the feet to be parallel and about hip distance apart. So I'm going to talk you through pelvic tilts now and coming into a neutral pelvis, neutral spine. And this is going to help us to really breathe in that lateral way, that effective way, and also to keep that engagement that we need through the abdominal muscles. So what I'd like you to do now is to take your thumbs together and your index fingers together and create a triangle shape. And you're going to place the thumbs on top of the navel, and the fingertips are going to point down towards the knees. And I want you to imagine there is a marble in between that gap, and you want to roll that marble towards the navel. So it's a little lift of the tailbone, not huge, little lift. And then you want to roll the marble down towards the pubic bone. So now you're going to go the other way. So you can see that little arc is coming into my lower back. So now I'm taking a little flexion and then a little extension. So we're just feeling that rolling sensation through the lumbar spine. Now your neutral pelvis is somewhere in between those two positions, that flexion and extension. So it's a light imprinting of the lumbar spine onto the mat, and the rib cages draw down towards, the rib cage draws down towards the hip bones. Okay, you can almost imagine having little magnets here, little magnets on the top of the hips, and they're magnetizing in towards the midline. And this is going to help us to keep our spines nice and long. Fantastic. And I'm going to place the hands down by the sides of the body and just take a few lateral breaths here without using hands. We just get used to that feeling of breathing into the sides of the ribs, inhaling here, exhaling, feeling the rib cage, draw back towards the midline. Very nice. So we're going to start with a really nice gentle exercise to work into the lower abdominals. We're going to draw the breath in here. And then as you exhale, I just want you to lift that right knee up. And then exhale to lower it back down, planting the foot down. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, lift the left leg up. And then planting it back down. So just a really nice way to start to feel that engagement happening through the lower abdominals. And just because your spine has had this lordosis, that arc in the lower back from pregnancy, sometimes we can feel a little bit disconnected from the sensations of our lumbar spine. And it's proprioception, so sometimes it just goes on a little bit of a holiday. If you're not sure if you're in that neutral position with the pelvis, if you take the tops of your fingers and just place them underneath that arc and just do a little press down, and then you can feel that engagement there. Really important that you don't force anything. It is gentle, but it just brings that tactile reminder as to what position the spine should be in. Good, let's do one more on each side. One more on the left. And lowering all the way back down. And then from here, we're going to come into an exercise called heel slides. Again, we're focusing on keeping that light imprinting of the lumbar spine onto the mat. And you're going to take a flex of your right foot, and I want you to slide your heel out towards the base of the mat. And then draw it all the way back in. We're going to stay on this right side, sliding it out. And if you're feeling it's dragging a little bit, you can hover the foot ever so slightly, drawing it back in. So it doesn't look like much, but hopefully you're starting to feel that engagement in the lower abdominals. Good. 2 more. Last one. And then we'll switch over onto the other side, drawing the breath in. Exhale to slide that heel away from the sit bones. Drawing the heel back in. And sliding away. Actually, one of my favorite things to do with this is put a pair of socks on and do it on actually laminate flooring or wooden flooring. It makes the heel slides a lot easier. And that can just be something you can do by yourself. Always a great activity to do. Good. Let's do 2 more on this side. Then drawing that foot back in. Planting the feet down. And we're going to come into a spinal lift now. So again, we want the feet to be parallel and we want the knees to be about hip distance apart. Now again, with the hip distance, everyone seems to have a different interpretation of this. So a general rule of thumb is that if you create a fist and place it between the knees, that's your hip distance. We're going to take the hands down by the sides of the body and we're going to draw the breath in to prepare. Then as you exhale, you're going to scoop the tailbone away from the mat and you're going to roll up through the spine, bone by bone by bone, coming up to wherever feels available for you, but no more so than having the rib cage in line with the hips and the hips in line with the knees. You're going to pause here for an in-breath. And then on the exhale, you're going to roll back down through the spine, bone by bone by bone, until the tailbone touches. Now that feels a little bit strong for you. Then just reduce how high up you come. So you're getting that little curvature, or that flexion of the spine, should I say, as you come up, and that rolling back down. We're looking to articulate for each vertebra of the spine. We'll do a few more of these. So inhale to prepare, exhaling to roll up. Breath in at the top. And then exhaling to roll all the way back down. Slow and controlled. Breath in to prepare. Exhaling to roll on up. So it's a nice opening through the hip flexors. You're engaging the glutes and the hamstrings slightly. But again, not overworking those muscles. Coming back down, let's do one more. Inhale to prepare. And then exhaling to roll all the way up. Pausing for a breath here. Exhaling all the way back down, bone by bone by bone. Tailbone is the last part to touch. And it can feel quite nice to then draw the knees into the chest here. You might even lift the head and the shoulders just ever so slightly, or you can keep the head and the shoulders grounded and just take a little rock here from side to side, massaging into the sacrum. And again, just checking in with how the body's feeling. And then we're going to plant the feet back down. And so from here, we are going to just take a roll off. We'll start with the right hand side. We're going to come into clams, into side lying. So resting on that right hip bone, you're going to take a bend in the knees and stack the left knee on top of the right. Now, I'm going to take my right elbow underneath my right shoulder, forearm is grounded, so that I can lift the rib cage up here and keep a line of energy through the spine. I'm going to take my left hand on top of my left hip. Option here, if this does not feel comfortable, you can actually do it completely side lying, maybe just bend the elbow and rest the head and the bicep coming from here. If you are coming down onto the floor, lift the side of the waist up so you've got a little bit of gap there for daylight to come through to keep that that line engaged. And we're going to take the big toes together. And on the inhalation, you're going to lift the left knee up. And then exhale, squeeze it back down. So inhale to lift. Exhale. Good. I'm going to come onto my elbow now. Stay with this. We're looking to do 8 reps. So you might start to feel it in that left glute, drawing it back down. Very nice. And then closing it back down. Very nice. And you might just give yourself a nice little massage there to work into the glutes. And we want to come onto the other side. So it might be that you come to lie down on your back and then roll over. I'm going to sit up this way and set myself up. So coming to lie down on the side. Elbow is underneath the shoulder and in line with the hip. Lifting that side of the rib cage up. Toes come together. And we're going to open up and then squeeze. Now, if you have done clams before, the way to advance this is that you lift the toes up like so, and then you open up fully. So that might just be something that if you were to repeat this class again, you might choose to advance that slightly, or just keeping the heels, the feet grounded. Main thing is here is that when you open up, that top hip doesn't come back. You want to keep it stacked above the bottom hip. Good. And let's do one more. Very nice. And then